Harmsy, back in the sound box, and in this video I need to accessorize this guy with two things. First, a bow for lathing, and second, a drum for sanding. We'll start with the bow for lathing, and for that I could simply just drill a hole in either end of this guy, soak it in water for a few days, and then heat bend it. But that wouldn't look very pretty and wouldn't give me any practice making pretty things before I try those skills on instruments. So instead, I'm going to just toss this guy aside. I'm going to use these tools here because I need practice working with them. And I'm going to use this piece of black walnut, not all of it obviously because this is way too long to be usable. And I'm going to make a pretty little lathing bow. And I'll probably use some cords similar to what I got here on this little drill, but probably in a different color because I don't think I have any more in that specific color. But anyway, I need to clear out some of this stuff so that I can get started. So I've decided I'm going to be cutting this piece here, and my reasoning for that is I need enough length to get a good full stroke. And if I place this down like so that my hand is few inches away from where the workpiece would be on this side, and then pull it, a few inches on the other side of the workpiece is around here, or rather here, and this is as far back as my arm can go. So a more comfortable motion like this should still be possible even after I lose some length from the bending process. So let me go ahead, cut this off, and then come up with a shape. Alrighty, so as you can see in that little corner up there, I got the shape drawn out, two little swells for the handle end and a third for the far end, and I'll figure out where exactly I need to drill on the ends themselves later, but for now I need to rough cut this, and like I said, I'm going to be doing it by hand rather than the bandsaw because I need the practice. So, this is going to take a while. Peekaboo! Peekaboo! Alrighty, I have the piece cut out in the basic shape that I want. I left a little bit extra over here in case I want to do something decorative after it gets bent. And I have this offcut over here that can be made into something else at some point. I'm just not sure what just yet. But my arms are kind of tired from doing all that hand cutting, so I'm going to set this aside for a while and come back to it tomorrow. Okay, now that I've had some time to rest, I'm going to go ahead and do some preliminary shaping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to round off these two back corners so that I have a little bit less material to fight against when I'm bending this. And I'm going to round off all four corners in this section so that it's a little bit nicer to hold on to. I'm going to leave this side of this section flat so that I can keep it straight while I'm bending it. And I'm going to leave the circles unmessed with because I need a flat surface for drilling. And I'm expecting something tomorrow that should allow me to make a stencil to help me mark the centers of these things. So the method I'm going to be using is the same thing that I used to notch the 2x4s in the previous video. However, instead of a circular saw, I'm going to be using this guy. And instead of the belt sander to smooth things out, I'm going to do a rough smoothing with my favorite little folding knife here. So let's get to it. But first, some measuring. Well, I didn't quite finish the rough shaping of this section here. There's just this little strip over here. Unfortunately, I was having to hold this at awkward angles in order to get the light just right, and my wrist started bothering me, so I had to set it aside for the rest of the night. But now I have that thing I was talking about in the previous clip, and I've already attempted to make a stencil, which came out badly because I don't have the settings just right, on my brand new nice and compact, upside down 3D Delta printer. This thing has a lot more definition than the one that I used to have way back when, and I look forward to making more things with it, and the first thing I need to make with it is a stencil that's actually the right size, because I messed up the measuring, so I gotta reprint it. So, what I've just done here is I've put some Kapton tape on here because when I tried printing it as shipped, it kind of stuck really hard to the build plate after I was done. And I've had some experience using Kapton tape as the build surface, and stuff comes off when it's supposed to and sticks when it's supposed to. So, that's what I've done here. And now I need to clean it off. Get my greasy handprints off of that so I get good adhesion. Well, after a few attempts, it is finally done. This took 40 minutes from start to finish on the attempt that was successful. And unfortunately, the ends curled up, despite me covering the whole thing in glass. I don't have the funding and tool access that Winter Gatan has. I used what was available, and it wasn't enough. I will be remedying that before I do anything else with this 3D printer. The curling up thing is a well-known problem with ABS. That's one of the reasons why I want to move to using PLA. Unfortunately, this is all I have right now, and I really needed this stencil. Moving on. While I was attempting to print this stencil and failing a couple of times, I went ahead and finished roughing out the back curves on this, got the handle area feeling nice, got this portion looking somewhat nice, and I cleaned it up some with this hand plane. However, despite not being big enough to properly plane, say, instrument tops so that they match up perfectly, it's too big for what I was trying to do here. It couldn't reach all the way to these spots here, and if you'll notice, this area here in the middle looks nice, smooth, and shiny, except for a few defects, but this area here still looks just as rough as when I finished cutting it. So that's kind of a problem. I have a tool inadequacy. Luckily, I have something that I can use to make tools. I won't be using it to make up for a lack of skill, but I will definitely be using that 3D printer to make up for a lack of funding. But anyway, now that I have this stencil, I can go ahead and use it to find the centers of these circles so I can get this thing drilled up and ready to bend. However, I can't use it to trace out the little spirals that I wanted just yet because I want the other side to be mirrored, and only one side of this is actually flat enough to trace. I'm going to have to try again to print it once I get a proper enclosure on my 3D printer. Either that or just make something else up instead. But that's going to do it for this video. I'll go ahead and finish this, get it bent in the next one, and maybe start working on the sanding drum. So until then, I got some cleaning up to do and a little bit of drilling to do. So bye-bye! Where did I leave it?
Dude, where did I leave the stencil?
Oh, right there.